Thank you so much. Well, gosh, it has been nearly 30 years since the Oklahoma City bombing, and victims say they are still struggling to get the money donated to them. That fund was audited 10 years ago when it was revealed that there was still $10 million in it. News on 6's Dana Hernicki has been following the story for years and years. She joins us now live to discuss where things stand this afternoon. Dana, always great to see you, my friend. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Brian. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well, yeah. Thank you for your time. Listen, you've been covering this story since 2012. What has happened to the fund in the past 10 years?
Well, back then, as your viewers may remember, it was revealed, like you mentioned, that there's like $10 million in the fund. And the victims at that point had said, you know, we're being told that there's no money in this fund, that there's very little money in this fund. They were having trouble accessing it. Well, now it's been a full decade, and we went back and talked to some of those victims about what they're seeing now. And you know, actually, they are saying the same thing. They said they still can't get access to that money that's now been in that fund for 30 years. And what's more, we have learned that that money has been moved into a private trust where there's much less accountability about how much is in it and who's getting it and how much is they're charging to manage it.
Yeah, Dana, recently you've been able to sit down with some of the victims. What are they telling you? How are they feeling about this right now?
Well, as you can imagine, they're not very happy. I mean, these are folks that have been really struggling for 30 years now. We talked to one lady whose son or grandson, PJ Allen, was one of the youngest kids in the bombing, and she is having trouble just like to get, he had a trach. She couldn't, you know, she couldn't get the fund to pay to get that trach out. Her private insurance is having to pay for it. Medicaid is having to pay for it. Medicare is having to pay for it. The state, they want folks to go to the state to pay for some of these medical expenses. I talked to another lady whose ear was blown off in the bombing, and she says she needs a new ear. The prosthetic that Red Cross paid for her, it's worn out. It's been a long time. So she went and, you know, she says she needs a new ear, and she can't find anybody to help her pay for that. So these people are still really struggling, and they're frustrated to learn that there's millions of dollars still, you know, in this fund, and they're still struggling.
Yeah, probably frustrating too for a donor perspective, right? I mean, you donate expecting that the money is going to help those who need it the most, and then to see it kind of in this stagnant phase is frustrating, I'm sure, as well. Listen, there's been a lot of developments with this fund since it was first established. What have you seen over the years, and is it typical to kind of have these types of issues when a fund like this is established?
Well, we also talked to, as part of our story, an attorney who managed, you know, the 9/11 fund, the Boston Marathon fund, the Pulse nightclub shooting, the Aurora shooting, and he tells us that in these cases, all of them, they would divide the money up, the people made their claims, and within 60 to 90 days, all the money was gone and the case was closed. And these folks could take this money and do with it what they wanted to, whether you had medical expenses or they wanted to take a family trip. It was theirs to do with what they want to. He says it's really unprecedented for almost 3 decades later for that money to still be sitting there in a bank.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, Dana, listen, it's great to see you this afternoon. Thank you always for your time. And you'll have more on this story in your special report tonight. Join us for an Oklahoma's own original investigation, Broken Trust. It will air tonight at 9 on the Tulsa CW and 10 o'clock right here on CBS.